What's good, Comms 101? It's your fellow classmate, James Wilcox. I'm here with
Julian Nuracher.
And we're here to present Chapter 10, Principles of Group Communication. And I want to give a special thanks to my friend Connor Zach.
Thanks,
he's a shadow right here.
What's up, Comm 101?
Yeah, he's right there. He's helped out a lot, and just can't give him enough thanks. All right. So,
yeah, the topics we're going to be getting into, main 6 topics. We're going to be talking about the types of people inside of small groups. We're going to talk about the dynamics, the advantages of small groups, the type of different cultural diversity within small groups, talk about it in the digital world, and how you can be an effective participant inside of a small group.
Yeah, and with that, we'll see you at the end. Let's get it. Alright, the first section is the small group characteristics. What is a small group? It is a limited number of people who work towards a common goal and who believe that together they can achieve more than any one of them acting alone. That's the definition from the book. A small group can be a team, as taught in Monday's lecture. There's important advantages, like people have their unique experiences, perspectives, and talents. There's different resources that we can use. Just this whole bunch of advantages and for a small group. And for a small group communication, which is a subsection of the small group characteristics, it's described in the book as the heart of the group dynamics, and involves consistent efforts of group members to influence one another.
So when it comes to small groups, there's numerous types: primary, secondary, learning, committees, self-managed work teams, and top management teams even. Primary groups, those are usually our families, our super close friends. Those are the people who help us in need and they care for us when we need them. Secondary groups are more task-oriented and work-oriented.
Like us.
And, yeah, like us, exactly. And they're there to help influence others and solve problems, pretty much. And then we get into our learning groups, and then those are popular to help us get a better understanding of the world as it is today. Effective learning groups are associated with higher student achievement. The next thing that brings us to is committees, and that can be found in professional organizations such as school, government agencies, legislatures, and corporations. They serve their larger organization, whether they're a permanent fixture, for example, a budget committee, or they've been created for one special task, for a one-time job, maybe a faculty search committee to help find jobs within a college. Even task forces are also included in that, and quality control circles, and their goal is to find a way to better the company's performance. And then that brings us to the self-managed work teams, and they've emerged over the years as results of employees gaining more autonomous control of their work. In these teams, skilled peers oversee their own schedules and work policies within their own boundaries of their parent company with very little supervision. And then that will bring us into our top management teams, or our TMTs, and those are a result of organizations decentralizing and appointing multiple managers to lead different units. They're usually composed of upper-level managers who focus less on production and more on improving leadership within the organization.
There are advantages of small groups. They can be voluntary or involuntary, and although in the workplace, you may not have a choice. Individuals can be great problem solvers, but however, groups can sometimes surpass an individual's ability. Some of the advantages of small groups include the diverse perspectives. This allows us to be able to draw on people's unique experiences. Group members can take these ideas and tackle complex problems by offering up, weighing, and trying out multiple solutions.
So another great thing about small groups is that you have these access to a whole bunch of different resources you wouldn't necessarily have if you're working alone in your room. For example, most of us have a one-track mind when it comes to working on things. We don't often look at things from a different point of view, and being able to have more than 2 or 3 people accessing information and having another 2 or 3 people assessing that information at the same time makes a big difference on how we'll think about it and how we'll be able to incorporate it into our own project. Another thing that's really important in small group communication is commitment, because everyone's depending on each other. So while you're sitting in your room doing your work from the Google Doc, you're just assuming your partner's doing the same thing, because you guys have all made this unspoken commitment. A lot of times you don't even talk about it, but everyone assumes that you need to be done by a certain time. You're just a bad group member. So in everyone's own way, they make an unspoken commitment to the group that is usually a norm within small groups nowadays.
Yo, I'm gonna do the title page for the presentation.
Why do you get to always do the title page? Maybe I want to do the title page this time.
No, man. I just don't trust your...
You don't trust my judgment?
No.
Why did you choose me?
Fellas, now what is the issue here? Why can't we all just work in harmony?
Yeah, maybe he's right.
Yeah. I think he's right, dog.
Alright, you can do the title page this time.
Alright, go. I did this for the presentation.
You're definitely on the right track with this one, and I really appreciate the effort. Keep up the good work, man. I love it. Hey, James, quick question. Your slide, our whole project's due tomorrow at midnight. You haven't started it, just making sure everything's okay. If you're going to get it done in time, just let me know.
What?
Did you just hear what he just said to you? Dude,
No.
what day is it today?
420?
It's in the middle of November. How could it be 420?
How should I know? I don't pay attention to that shit.
How do you function in a daily basis? You go to college here. How do you not know what day it is?
Whatever, dude.
No, it's not whatever, dude. Hey, I'm talking. We got a project due tomorrow. Dude, I'm talking to you, man. We got a project due tomorrow, and you're making us both look bad. We're both going to get a 0 on it because of you.
Hey guys, what should we do for this track?
So next we're going to be getting into group development, and there's a couple of different models we're going to look at when it comes to how groups initially form. So looking at Tuckman's model, it initially starts with the forming, and that's learning about each other, you know, the little icebreakers, blah, 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 where you're from, what's your major. And then storming, I like to think of as brainstorming. That's challenging each other and just bouncing ideas off each other's brains, you know, getting the foundations for your project. And then the norming is working with each other, and that's everyone's comfortable with each other, everyone's free to express their ideas with no judgment, and everything's working perfect. And then performing, working as one. That's like the final swing of things. Everyone's on the right track. Everything's getting finished. No one's arguing. So with Gersich's model, phase 1 is inertia, and it's kind of the same as the forming phase in the last one, because it's more of a who are we, what are we doing here. Not much of a personal icebreaker, but more of a task-oriented icebreaker, focusing more on the project. And then phase 2 is the concentrated change, and then that's when the work gets done to accomplish said task. And the time towards this second phase feels a lot more urgent compared to the phase 1 of when it feels way more casual.
The next section is cultural diversity. For groups, if you are able to encompass the difference in attitudes, the motives, the beliefs and opinions, and the skills of other people, it becomes a very, very valuable asset for the team. Although working with group members that are similar to you is often easier, and working with people who are different does not provide the same degree of accomplishment as those that are similar to you. A subsection of cultural diversity includes masculine and feminine preferences. Members of a masculine culture tend to lean more towards a direct leadership in a group, and those in a feminine culture tend to encourage the social aspects of a group work and more participatory communication, and they often pay closer attention to the relationship aspect of the message. The next subsection is mindful communication, which is characterized by thoughtful reflection, openness, and a willingness to bridge differences. Some of the aspects of mindful communication includes the creativity, which with a diverse cultural background, you can produce a greater number of new ideas. The effectiveness of a cultural diverse group can make the group focus more on treating one another with mindfulness and respect. Another aspect of mindful communication is group communication. And if individual group members prefer the collective orientations, communicate with more respect and cooperation. And also serves to encourage others to contribute to the group presentation as well.
The next thing we're going to get into is small group communication in this new digital age we're currently in. And it definitely comes with a lot of advantages, but there are also definitely some drawbacks. But initially, I can think of stuff right now. Email has been very prevalent in our group projects lately. I'm sure everyone that's listening to this right now and watching didn't meet with their group to do their project. They just sent their Google Drive link and then typed their slides and then showed up on presentation day ready to go. But some advantages of face-to-face communication opposed to mediated communication with a computer or phone is that face-to-face is rich in both content and relational meaning. So that means that the relationship gets stronger because it's face-to-face and there's definitely more intimacy, not with your group members, obviously, but when it comes to face-to-face advantages, regards to mediated, they're rich in content and relational meaning, and that really means that the relations are stronger because you're face-to-face and the conversations that you have can be more. The sense of connection is immediate because there isn't a delay in communication because they're right in front of your face. You don't have to wait for those 3 bubbles to pop up that they're typing. They're right there, right in front of your face, so they can't ignore you. And you can also adapt easier to one another because when you get used to people's personalities more, it's way easier when you're face-to-face because you can get more of a reading of how they are as a person and how they react. But some disadvantages that come along with face-to-face communication is the emotions can get in the way. It's definitely easier to get a rise out of someone in person sometimes, obviously, because it's easier to sense someone's emotions face-to-face rather than online because you can see all their body language and you can see how they're reacting to what you're saying. And you can push each other away easier because it's very easy to be overbearing in person and being that little micromanager that no one wants to be in. But let's move on to mediated communication when it comes to some of those advantages. Members can think more before they're sending their messages. It's not whatever comes off the top of your brain is what's going to be said because that can sometimes create some tension within the group. You can type it, look at it, edit it, and make sure it's okay to send, and everyone will be able to understand it clearly. You feel more free and less hindered to contribute because you're working on your own time, and since you're not with anyone asking you questions in person, nagging you, tapping you on the shoulder, it doesn't matter because you're on your phone, you're on your computer, and you're the safety of wherever you are. But some disadvantages, the social connection takes longer to build because you're not having these meaningful conversations with people. You're just saying, hey, look at the picture I just put on the doc, and everyone's like, oh, cool, that's really cool, man. They feel the groups, they're less cohesive, meaning they're not as together. And that comes back to what I just said, is that the relationships at the beginning aren't built as strongly because nothing ever happens face-to-face. And it's important, if you're doing an online group project, to meet at least once face-to-face to establish that initial connection and relationship. Another thing that is really big, other than document sharing, is video calling. FaceTime for Apple just recently got group FaceTime for everybody. They weren't just beta testing it. And it's like being in a Google Doc and being face-to-face had a baby because you're face-to-face, but you're also in the computer, if you know what I'm saying. So, you can get a sense for people's nonverbal cues and their body language, but it's not the same as being in contact with those people.
The next and last section of this chapter is effective participation in a small group. The first subsection is to prepare for group meetings. You don't want to be the one person who's not prepared and has to have everything explained to him. That's a waste of time. The next subsection is listen interactively. It avoids situations where people might feel they're not being heard. Next subsection is participate, don't dominate. Make sure you're able to participate, but just don't dominate the lecture, the meeting, the group work. Make sure other people's opinions and perspectives are being heard. Next is to fulfill your commitments. This kind of runs along with be prepared for the meeting. If you have commitments, if you're tasked with something, don't forget to do it. Make sure you do it, come prepared, and it'll be easier. Don't be that guy or person. Use technology to your advantage because technology is awesome. We're here sitting recording our presentations using technology. You guys use the Google Slides.
I'm sure about half the class is on their technology right now.
Exactly.
This video.
I see you in the back. The next subsection is to encourage a positive climate and politeness and authenticity. Don't be rude. Don't discriminate. Don't dominate. Don't be lazy. Make sure the climate is welcoming to everybody. It will make the group work run smoother.
Alright guys, thank you guys so much for watching these guys' performance for Chapter 10, Principles of Group Communication. Peace.